Hey guys, Dabu7. We got some things brewing here on the world stage. And it looks like Europe just wants war with Russia. For no valid reason whatsoever. They want war with Russia. Even though Trump is trying to strike up a peace deal and all this stuff, Europe and Zelensky seem hell-bent on kicking up a major war. It's been war, and Russia's been winning it. But now the United States wants to back out, pull out of it, potentially leave NATO. Europe kind of flipping out, saying, okay, we're going to try to do this on our own. And we got a few things happening here that signal that they're serious about going to major war with Russia, which nobody really wants. Leading the pack here is Macron in France. And he is stating that he is going to release invasion survival guides for all their people. So they're telling everyone and planting the seeds that Russia could potentially invade. And that would obviously only be as a repercussion of them advancing this war in Ukraine. Because Russia's made no indication that it wants war with anyone. They feed natural resources into Europe every year and every winter. And Russia pretty much keeps Europe alive. They stop from freezing to death because of all the resources that Russia sends them. That's why I say the world is a stage. If Russia really wanted them dead, they'd just cut that off. And they'd be done in one winter. Well, France is also telling everyone to leave Iran immediately. So it looks like this whole thing is going to center around Iran here. The UK also saying that they're ready to send their special forces into Ukraine, into the front lines. Zelensky saying that the US is being influenced by Russia. And then also not wanting to agree to any of the real peace deals. Then also striking facilities after they say that they'll stop. Poland is preparing for a showdown with Russia. They have conscripted every single adult for military training. Is preparing for a showdown with Russia. They have conscripted every single adult for military training. France giving out survival manuals. Poland making everyone get trained up for war. It doesn't sound like they want peace or are geared up to go that route. And all the Baltic states together, if you don't know, they've come together and they're building a massive defensive line. This defensive line has 600 bunkers, has tank ditches, dragon's teeth, rockets set up, and weaponry. And then finally, Trump gives Iran a 2-month deadline for this nuclear agreement. 2-month deadline. Either they agree to it or what? I'm going to say they're going to start striking. It's crazy in the Middle East war scene right now, but it's pretty wild that you've got Trump on the scene trying to spark up a peace deal with Russia, and Europe and them just don't want no part of it. They seem to be the aggressors in the situation. They seem to be constantly pushing for war. So I wouldn't doubt it if some kind of mini nuke, tactical nuke or something strikes somewhere. I mean, they're striking deeper and deeper into Russia, and this is why Russia doesn't want to have any kind of ceasefire. He's like, it's just going to let them remobilize. But I feel like something huge is coming. Remember, on that Chinese rover pic map, there's a mushroom cloud coming from this area. One of which, in my book, we haven't seen yet. It would be one for the record books. Will it be Kiev, Moscow, somewhere in between? I don't know. But it really feels like something on this front is coming, something huge. We're in crazy times, are we not? Something big could happen anywhere at any moment, it seems. Join me for the live shows where I'm talking about this in greater detail. Going live Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern, right here on Dabu77. Hope to see you there. Much love.
World War III, baby. Go. Shalom. First thing and foremost, I'm going to give all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone and Rule Well. Blessings and salutations to the hopeful elect. Noah's in the gospel abroad, lifting up the standard. Every how about Shimi, how it shy, wherever it may be. This is another lesson through the spirit. As you watch the video from Dabu 7, mentioning that how France is trying to provoke a war with Russia, but America is trying to provoke a war with Iran, which at the end of the day is going to lead to both nations clashing, because that's what the scriptures say, and that's what prophecy says. Okay, according to the book of Ezekiel, the 38th chapter, the land of Gog and Magog, which is modern day Russia today, they're going to be guards into these smaller nations like North Korea, Iran, Libya, Turkey, the North Quarters, etc. And we're seeing a buildup as these different nations of the European Union and even NATO are moving equipment across certain borders to be strategically set up into place. So when all hell breaks loose, they can have a fight on all fronts, man. Okay, geopolitics. And you have what they call reconnaissance missions when they go and they survey the land. Like going back all the way up until 2001, 2002, 2003, when that fake war on terror, when America invaded Iraq, which was basically a step closer to get to the borders of Iran, because ultimately they want to harbor those resources and they want to be able to set up a complete central bank over Iran to be able to harbor those resources because of the oil and the pipelines that run through Kazakhstan, through Iran, through Moscow, Turkey. America wants to harbor those resources. So therefore, he's trying to provoke these nations into a silent war, which is going to become global. All right. So it says 7 actions that NATO countries are taking, which indicate that something really big is coming. And it says if peace is on the way, why are they fervently preparing for World War III? Okay, because the scriptures say that, behold, the third woe coming quickly. You see? So we're definitely in a time of the third woe. And contingent upon the economy or the collapse of the American economy and all the tariffs that Trump is putting on his European allies, because he wants to put tariffs on the whole world. Okay, I believe he just taxed a 25% tariff on automakers, man. And I think it was like, I don't know if it was Tesla or, at first I read it was like the auto industry, but I'm thinking that it's particular to like maybe the electric vehicles. I don't know, man. But Trump is doing a lot of underhand shit that's pissing off his allies to the point that they're gonna abandon the whore, which is gonna lead her to fend for herself, according to Revelation 17 and 15. But it says, it appears to me that the NATO countries are convinced that something really big is coming. But it says, is that something that they know they aren't telling the rest of us? Because as the scriptures say, peace and safety, sudden destruction. As Trump was talking about that peace ordeal, but find out that war secrets and war planning were leaked of their goddamn strategies, man. That they wanted to declare war on certain nations. You better believe that Iran was the talk of the town. So right there, that whole we want peace and the so-called, that's all bullshit, man. There ain't going to be no peace, because as long as this devil is in power, there will never be any peace. All right. But it says, as I discussed yesterday, things in the Middle East are really heating up, and the conflict in Ukraine has reached a very dangerous stage, which pretty much half the Ukrainian army is dead. Okay, it was to the point they was grabbing men up off the streets because, hey, they didn't have nobody fighting for them. They all was dying. But it says if negotiations with Russia fail, both sides are likely to significantly escalate matters into a desperate attempt to win the war, and the Russians could come to the conclusion that the final showdown with NATO has begun. Because remember that NATO was trying to recruit Ukraine, but they understood that was going to be World War III. So they was no, I think Ukraine was trying to come under NATO's wing, but I believe they kind of fell back off that deal because they was like, are you stupid? That's literally World War III, because the minute that the Ukrainian forces would have became part of NATO, that's already an invasion of the Russian border, which Russians found out that there were biolabs set up in parts of Europe and Ukraine that was pretty much signing off on like certain, what was it, those different biolabs when they was testing all those particular ordeals, them juice mandates, and dealing with germ warfare, and also spending billions of taxpayers' dollars on transgender research, and also they just found a lot of biological weapons facilities around their borders, man, that could possibly sabotage their country. So, they wasn't having it. But it says here, we do not want the Russians to view the conflict in Ukraine in those terms. Because they scared of Russia, man, because they know Russia will act. But because they are already extremely paranoid, and it wouldn't take much to push them over the edge. But unfortunately, NATO countries continue to do things that will raise tensions ahead of easing them. But it says here, number one, France is getting ready to distribute a 20-page survival manual that instructs citizens to do what to do if a full-blown war erupts, which shows you right there that they're preparing for war. It says France is the latest country to set issues in invasion survival how to guide for its citizens, which America won't do. Okay, at least they're telling their citizens, look, go in bunkers. And Russia been telling their citizens that for years. Like, look, for the bunkers or whatever, do so. But it says the 20-page booklet will give advice to the French civilians on how to defend the Republic in the face of an invasion by signing up to reserve units or local defense efforts. And it will also have tips on how to create a survival kit with essentials including 6 liters of water, canned food, batteries, and basic medical supplies. Oh, shit. They're getting prepared, man. Okay? And what are these stupid Americans doing? Social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, reality shows, bread and circuses, work, taxes. They're totally in la la land because in their spirit, they feel like this can't happen here. But this is going to happen here, too. But it says the French government is also telling their citizens to immediately leave Iran. All right. It says French authorities on Thursday requested its citizens to immediately leave the territory of Iran, and the foreign minister of the ministry had issued a warning to all its citizens amid the releases of one of its nationals who had been imprisoned in Iran for over 880 days. But it says it is being reported that military planners in the UK have ordered special forces units to get ready to be sent to Ukraine. It says special forces units were able to prepare for mobilization to Ukraine by military planners tasked with radiant forces by the Cabinet Office, according to 2 military sources with knowledge of the directive. It says the Command Center for UK Military Planning, a permanent joint headquarters, was sent directives last week to begin the process for deployment of personnel and resources. And the orders, which also apply to Special Forces reservists, put personnel on standby in order to ensure military equipment is in working order before receiving a notice to mobilize Ukraine. All right, it says Turkey has announced that it will also be willing to deploy troops to Ukraine if needed. But Turkey will be ready to deploy troops to Ukraine as part of the broader peacekeeping mission if needed. But a Turkish defense ministry said source on Thursday. All right, and it says the Russians has also stated that they would never accept NATO troops on the Ukrainian soil under any circumstances. Oh, shit. So basically, because technically Ukraine still belongs to Russia. Okay, during the time of the USSR, the Soviet Union, they was all one conglomerate. But it says, but why are these nations preparing to send troops anyway? Which number 5, it says Poland is preparing for a showdown with Russia by conscripting every adult male for military training. So, yeah, they're going to bring back a draft. It says Warsaw is preparing to face down any invasion by Vladimir Putin by conscripting every adult male for military training. But the Eastern European nation also wants nukes, and President Andrzej Duda has now said the U.S. could send some of its arsenal to his country. Okay, the Baltic states are jointly constructing a massive defense line that includes 600 bunkers, tank ditches, Dragon's Teeth rocket systems. Oh, they got a dragon. And it says in the Baltics are building a joint defense line on their border with Russia that will have some 600 bunkers across each border. It says it will also include tank ditches, forests, Dragon's Teeth, hedgehogs, and rocket systems. But Poland and the Baltics have also withdrawn an international treaty banning anti-personnel landmines as they prepare to stop an advancing Russian army in its tracks. Which, wow. This is, yeah, we're pretty there. It says he's given Iran a 2-month deadline to reach a new nuclear agreement. So basically, Trump, he wants to bomb Iran, and he bombs Iran. Russia is gonna get involved in that. All right, but hey, this is where we at in prophecy. So, matter of fact, let's do this. Get the book of Ezekiel 38. We at the doors, brothers. We close. You know, scriptures say peace and safety and sudden destruction. But matter of fact, let's do this real quick. Continual. Oops. Psalms 140 and 2. Psalms 140 and 1. It says, deliver me, O Yahweh, from the evil man. Preserve me from the violent man, which imagine mischiefs in their heart. Continually they are gathered together for war, and they have sharpened their tongues like a serpent. Adder's poison is under their lips. Okay, but it says continually they are gathered together for war. So all that peace talk that Esau was talking, that will never come to fruition because Esau doesn't know how, he doesn't understand peace. Okay, peace is not in his nature, because when you go into the book of Genesis, it said that it was given to him a great sword. All right, and matter of fact, Revelation 6 and start of 4. Matter of fact, 6 and 3. And it reads, it says, and when he had opened the second seal, I heard the second beast say, come and see. And there went out another horse that was red, which is Esau, and power was given to him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth, and that they should kill one another. And that was given unto him a great sword. So since this man has been in power, there has been nothing but global conflicts all over the damn place, man. All right, they say ever since like America's inception, well, like 250 years, we roughly at the 250-year mark. I think we're year 249, 2050, 26, 250 is 2026. But they said out of the 250 years they've been a nation, this motherfucker has been in war 236 years, man. All right, they haven't even seen roughly 20 years of peace. Okay, because like we just read, continually they're gathered together for war. So this man is he's a warmonger, bro. That's his nature. He's always been in that spirit since the time of the Greeks, okay, and the Romans. That's what they were doing. They were fighting wars until, forever wars, because they were spread so thin and they was invading other lands and taking over borders, man. And that's the nature of Esau. He would never know peace, Ezekiel 38 and 2, it says, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief priests of Meshach and Tubal, in prophecy against them, and say, thus says Yahweh thy power, or the Lord Yahweh, behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief priests of Meshach and Tubal, which were Japhetic nations, right? It says, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth, and all thy army and horsemen, all thy army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. So the Lord is telling them to prepare, okay? This is the Russians. This is why that they're getting ready to protect their borders. They said, look, we ain't going to have NATO troops on the Ukrainian soil because technically Ukraine is still claims of Russia. But it says Persia, which is Iran, Ethiopia, and Libya with them, all of them with shield and helmet, which is military equipment. Gomer and all his bands in the house of Togomar, okay, going to Turkey, because we know that Turkey is going to pretty much succeed from, they're going to succeed from the United States, all right, because NATO is somehow may disband, or they're just going to turn their back on America, all right, but even Trump was talking about breaking up NATO, you see, but it says here, the house of Togomar of the north quarters and all his bands and many people with thee. So be thou prepared and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them, okay? So this is the reason why Russia is on high alert, because they understand that once NATO invades, then they're going to have to defend territory, and if NATO gets involved, EU gets involved, America is going to get involved. So it's basically turning down to a war of the East versus the West, man. Because remember, pretty much Trump is declared a trade war against China too. So hey, Lord's will, this be the year. You see? But anyway, going down here, it says, in a letter that was delivered to the Iranians, Donald Trump has given Iran only 2 months to reach a peace agreement. But President Donald Trump has given Iran 2-month deadline to reach a new nuclear agreement, according to the IXOs. But it's so funny that he's trying to bully them from getting a nuclear weapon, but he's not fucking with Israel, you know? He's not bullying anybody. I mean, he's trying to, for whatever he's picked with Iran, you know? For like the nations, like, let's just say, like North Korea, which they always threaten to blow America off the map. They're not threatening them, you know, but they want to fuck with Iran, knowing that Iran has Russia to back them. But this is all the Lord, man, because as we read that the Lord was going to put hooks in the jaws of Gog and Magog, which is Russia. And it says the letter sent earlier this month to Supreme Leader Ayatollah Al-Khamenei warned of consequences if Tehran continued its nuclear program while also offering renewed talks. But it says the message described as an uncompromising made clear that prolonged negotiation was not an option. So they're not giving up their weapons, all right? Why would I give up my weapons just so you could take me over? You know, it says since the Iranians have already said that there would be no negotiations, I would assume that the clock started when the letter was delivered. And Trump, he'll bomb their ass, man. But it says, but Trump is serious. There's a very good chance that it could happen before the midpoint of this year. So it says, so the good news is that the bombing of Iran will probably not happen next month. But it says, but if Trump is serious, there's a good chance that it could happen before the midpoint of this year. And trust me, Trump would do that shit. Okay, because he's a fucking Trump, Trump don't, as Apostle Tahar say, fools rush in. You know? But it says, meanwhile, the Ukrainians just conducted an absolutely massive drone strike on Russia strategic bomber airfield that is located 100 miles from the front line. But the Ukrainian forces, backed by Western munitions and technology, struck a major Russian strategic bomber airfield on Thursday, 435 miles from the Ukrainian front lines. It says the strike ignited a massive explosion and sent a huge blast of fire into the air egos at Ingles 2 air base of Russia. All right, which basically is a declared war. But it says we are right on the verge of an apocalyptic conflict with Russia, and we really are right on the verge of apocalyptic conflict in the Middle East, which is basically World War III. All right, so matter of fact, let's do this. 2 Judges 15, and let's start at verses 28. It says, behold, a horrible vision, and the appearance there from the east, where the nations of the dragons of Arabia should come out with many chariots, all right? And we're seeing it because the Arab world is teaming up against the Western world. And it says, and a multitude of them should be carried as the wind upon the earth, that all they which hear may fear and tremble. Also the Carmenians, which is the Iranians ranging in war, should go forth as wild bulls of the wood, and with great power they should come, and they should join with them, and they should waste a portion of the land of the Assyrians, which the land of the Assyrians is Babylon. And it says, then shall the dragons have the upper hand, remembering their nature, and if they should turn themselves, conspiring together in great power to persecute them, then these should be trouble bled, and keep silence through their power, and shall flee. And from the land of the Assyrians shall the enemy besiege them, and consume some of them, and their host should be fear of dread and strife among their kings. But behold, the clouds from the east, and from the north, and from the south, and they are very horrible to look upon, for the wrath and storms, you know, going into those chariots. And they shall smite one upon another, and they shall smite down a great multitude of stars upon the earth, even their own star, and blood should be from the sword into the belly, and dung of men's into camels' who, and there should be a great fearness and trembling upon the earth, and they that see the wrath should be afraid, and trembling should come upon them. Okay, because this shit is gonna put the world in shock, man. All right, this world ain't gonna know what the hell is going on because they didn't anticipate World War III, even though the signs are all around. And it says, then shall there come great storms from the south and from the north and another part of the west. And a strong wind shall rise from the east and shall open it, and the clouds which he raised up in wrath, and the stars stirred to cause the fear towards the east and west wind shall be destroyed. And like great and mighty clouds should be puffed up for the wrath, and the star, that they may make all the earth afraid, and them that dwell therein, and they shall pour out over every high mountain and eminent place a horrible star. You know, like the missiles, man. Like it says, fire and hell and flying swords And many waters, and all fields may be full, and all rivers with the abundance of great waters. And they shall break down the cities and walls, and mountains and hills, and trees of wood, and of grass and meadows in their corn. And they shall go steadfastly into Babylon, and make her afraid. And they shall come and besiege her, and the star and all thy wrath they shall pour out upon her. Then shall the dust and smoke go up into heaven, and all they that be around shall bewail her, man, going into those missiles, man. Because this place is going to get pelted with missiles, man. All right. And we keep telling you that this place is going to be destroyed by ICBM nuclear fire because the scriptures say so. You see, but you got guys out there that they don't go into this information. Either they don't believe in it, or they're afraid, or they just in denial. But every Israelite camp should be speaking on World War III, man. All right. Because this is imminent. Scriptures say the third will come quickly. Revelation 16. And I'm going to start at verses 12, and it says, and the sixth angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates, and the water thereof was dried up, and the ways of the kings of the east may be prepared. And we're just reading about this in second Esdras. And I saw 3 unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon, out of the mouth of the beast, and the mouth of the false prophet, which is those trilateral cities. And for they are the spirit of devils, working miracles, which go forth to the kings of the earth and of the whole world, to gather them to the battle of the great day of Yahweh Almighty, all right, which is World War III, a.k.a. the War of Armageddon, all right. But behold, I come as a thief, but blessed is he that watcheth and keep his garments, lest he walk naked and they see his shame. And he gathered them together in a place called in the Hebrew tongue Armageddon, all right. And that's the result of it. This shit is going to lead into the War of Armageddon, but it won't happen until the chip is made mandatory. Once the chip is made mandatory, then World War III can fully go, it could become a hot war, okay, because it's still in its brewing stages. All the tensions and all the players are getting to that side of the line. But once the chip is made mandatory, then it would be a go-ahead from Yahweh Shai to finally put an end to this place. So we're really waiting on the chip. And the minute that the chip is passed or instituted or made mandatory, then we can start counting down the days of our deliverance, which is very soon, by the way. So anyway, with that, all praises and glory and honor that's due to Yahweh Shai. Lord's will, you will edify. Until the next lesson. Shalom.